Hello, everyone, and welcome to Evolve and Elevate with Errica. We are back. We are back. And so we are so excited to be here with you all this evening. A pleasure to spend time with you on this Monday night. So, with me, I have the wonderful Alicia Johnson with the 1212 community who is with me on tonight. And we are so thankful for her presence to be here with us in the studio. And I'm your host tonight, Errica Bishop, the founder of Empowered to Prosper Coaching and Consulting, and also your host of Evolve and Elevate with Errica, as we talk about all things emotional intelligence and we talk about how we can evolve and elevate. And when we do that, all things have to evolve and elevate around us. So I'm going to turn it over to Alicia just for a moment so she can introduce herself to you as well.
Hello. I am Alicia Johnson, the creator of the 1212 community, and we are dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to recalibrate their lives to live 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. And we do that through a myriad of ways, one of being journaling through the process. So that is who I am in a nutshell, and I'm glad to be here. Very excited about
Well,
this.
we're so excited. Yeah, so just for a quick moment before we get into our topic. So tonight we're going to hit part two about rebuilding brokenness in the family. So for the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about dismantling dysfunction within the family. And now we've talked about how do we rebuild once we get to that place where we have dismantled the dysfunction. We've realized what a dysfunction is. How do we heal from it in that place? So, but what I want you to talk about real quickly that is about to come up is called provision school.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about
Hello.
provision school just for a moment.
Okay, Provision School is my next God given assignment, and I am so excited to be able to teach this at a level where everyone can win. The most important part about life is that we all need to experience abundance, but not the way that the world says, in the way that God requires. So, Provision School is going to uncover all of the secret places where your money is hiding, help you to position yourself for all of the provision that God wants to give you. And we're going to have a lot of fun cuz I got all my receipts, and God does some things in some really amazing ways. And Provision School will begin September 17th. We'll be rolling out all of those details real soon. So, yeah, Provision School, because provision cannot be traced, tracked, or taxed.
Okay, so look, if you all, I'm gonna tell you something. If you all are not a part of the 1212 community, get in because you want to be a part of provision school. Because one thing I know, anybody that does the work is going to be able to have the testimony of the work that has been done. Because when I tell you I am super, super duper duper excited about what's about to happen in provision school, and I'm in my year one too. Oh my God. So you've got to be in the 1212 community to even understand what a year one is
Yeah.
as far as your life path. So I mean, it's a whole nother situation all by itself. So
Amen.
as we kind of dig into this tonight, and we are talking about rebuilding from brokenness, because one of the things that we also have to remember that even when it comes to provision, when we think about provision, you cannot be a person that walking around with holes in your pocket. And when God gives things to you, if you have holes within your soul, you're not going to be able to keep and hold on to what it is that God is giving to you. The wisdom, the knowledge, the revelation, the understanding that you're going to need when it comes to provision. I think sometimes we get caught up and we think provision is just the dollars. And it's not just the dollars. Provision itself is the wisdom that comes and what it is you need to do for the provision to come that may end up in dollars. And sometimes it's in the connection, and then there's so many in other things. So when we talk about rebuilding brokenness, because when you rebuild and you get to a place of wholeness, you begin to really attract abundance, and you really begin to see provision in your life in a completely different way, because you make way for provision to come in your life, because you're no longer in a place of spin, you're no longer in a place of chaos, you're no longer in a place where your emotions are mastering your money and your money is telling you where it went instead of you telling your money where it's supposed to go. And you're finding yourself really walking in a place of true integrity and character and godly wisdom. And you find yourself really living a life of true abundance. So
Amen.
I'm going to take
Amen.
a moment. Of course, I've always start with a question. When we talk about rebuilding brokenness, um, and you've been on your journey, we've talked about so many different things. When did that place of provision start colliding with the healing in your journey?
Hmm. So, provision started colliding with the healing in my journey when I started to identify the true areas where I was broken and the areas where I wasn't broken. And what I mean by that is that the world teaches us that a lot of times, you've heard this, I'm sure that your audience has heard this too, that a lot of times people don't attract what they want because they have a lack mentality. You have a
Mm-hmm.
lack mentality. And so that was one of the areas that I considered a broken area in me until I started to go deeper and to ask God, why did I have this lack mentality? And God was like, you don't have a lack mentality. You do not have a lack mentality. What you have are higher standards. You don't want to get the money. You don't want to get the world's provision in the way that the world is presenting it. So it's not that I was lacking anything. It was just that I had higher standards and I wasn't willing to do the things that the world encouraged me to do. So I don't know if you heard all of that, Erica.
Because I
Um,
went in and I went out. Can you hear
uh-huh.
me? Okay. All right. We got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, what I was saying is that one of the areas that I thought I was broken and I wasn't broken in, I thought I was broken in I thought I had a lack mentality because the world tells you if you're not pulling in all of these things and you're not operating at this worldly level of abundance, then you have a lack mentality. And I was like, God, why am I broken in this area? God was like, you're not broken in that area. You have standards. You have perspective. You are looking at things from a higher level, so you're not willing to do the things in the way that the world is telling you to do it to get what the world says you have to have. So I wasn't broken in that area. Where I was broken was in my ability to see myself the way that God needed me to see myself.
Wow.
Because I was seeing myself in alignment with other people's perceptions. I was seeing myself in alignment with the title that I had. I was seeing myself in alignment with my history, with my family's history of me, with my friends' history of me, and not allowing myself to rise above that fragmented perception of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was broken. I was living a fragmented life, a broken life, because I was only focusing on the things that people told me instead of me accepting the truth of who God
Mhm.
says that I am.
Mhm.
And so once I started to accept the truth of who I am, I had to, Errica, I had to push away everything like religion,
Mhm.
parenting, everything that was foundational in my life. I had to tear those foundations up and start from scratch. And with everything, God, what do you say about my finances? What do you say about my marriage? What do you say about my parenting? What do you say? And once I started to identify what God was saying, honey, that honey, it's just it's just like everything. I thought it was scary. It was scary because what God was showing me, just like on earth as it is in heaven, for everything in the natural, there's a parallel and corresponding occurrence in the supernatural. On earth, the shortest distance between any 2 points, we learned this in geometry, is
Mhm.
a straight line. God showed me so powerfully that the reason that my life was so confusing and so chaotic was because the words that I spoke didn't have a direct line to the end point. It was like just all this static and traffic, and it
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
crazy.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So when I
you're right.
when I dealt with that brokenness, it straightened the path.
Mhm.
I speak a thing and it happens. God was like, you should be concerned when you speak a thing and it doesn't happen instead of speaking the thing and getting excited when it does happen.
Wow, that's good. Mhm. That's powerful.
We get it
You
wrong.
know, we do get it wrong because I when you really begin to understand that how much power you really do have in your mouth, one, you learn how to shut up and not talk so much. You
Yes.
learn how to be quiet
Yes.
because you create your own chaos in your
Yes.
own.
Yes.
You realize how much of your own chaos. And it was a couple of things that I learned from that when I really began to understand how much I had as far as power in my mouth. It was when, sometimes we agree with people so quickly. And I was just, you had the guy, Holy Spirit give you these wonderful teacher moments, and you just talking to people, hey, how you doing? Girl, I just so and so. You be like, yeah, and the Holy Spirit says, see, you done got another agreement, and you be like, oh, God. So, you just like, you just don't sometimes you even know how to respond. You say, I'm so sorry to hear that for you. You're like, um, no, that's not me today. That's not, I don't
If
have to
it
deal
ain't
with that.
if it ain't one thing, it's another for you. For you.
For
For
you,
you.
for you. Yeah. And you really have to be mindful of your language, and your language has to shift.
Yes.
When you're rebuilding your life, your language has to
All the
shift.
time.
You have to. And you have to reconstruct everything within your life. And I remember when I was like, God, why are these things not happening? I'm speaking confessions and I'm believing your word. He said, you got a traffic jam in the spirit.
Yes, ma'am.
He said, you speak this and then you speak something else. And he said, you got angels in flight and then you speak over what I'm trying to do. And he said, and you causing your own traffic jam in the spirit. He said, so everything, he said, a double-minded man is unstable and all. And he said, you have caused everything to stop. He said, that's on you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, it's on you.
Exactly.
So he said, until you get single-minded and you learn how to speak one way, it's not going to change.
Honey. Oh, The words out of your mouth. Mike and I, we've been in a space where we're really exploring the spiritual aspects of everything that's been happening. And I said, Mike, you realize you're a very powerful manifester. Very powerful. And he had to laugh himself because when we think about everything that's happened and culminated just this past year, like everything, I cannot tell you how many times he was like, I'm tired of driving to this job. I don't want to be at this job anymore. I don't want to do this. You got it all taken care of. The words in your mouth. But see, the thing is, we don't get to control what it looks like.
Say it again to the people that's not listening and panting.
We don't get to control what it looks like. We speak the overarching desire. I don't want to go to this job can translate into you losing the job, you not being able to work the job, you being replaced by something or someone. You don't get to determine how it's removed. So this is why you have to be very mindful. And I learned this from Saint Ike, Reverend Ike and Coda. I love that man. Judge me if you want to. I love some Reverend Ike. Every time he would say something, like that man was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time. And he was like, when he manifested something or wanted something, he would always end it. And I learned this many years ago. No hurt or harm come to anyone. When you are asking for something from heaven, you want to ensure that this manifestation, this drawing in, this calling in brings hurt or harm to no one. Because a lot of times we calling stuff in, not understanding that there are many different realms in heaven.
Wow.
You want to call it in from the highest realm available. Because you don't want to get, honey, you can get caught up in some stuff.
So I don't think everybody's ready for that part of the conversation, because that's about 6 more episodes we can deal with tonight, dealing with all these different rants. But that's okay. We're going to get to that. But remember, you want to call it from the highest part of heaven. And remember, you don't want any hurt or harm to come from anyone when you're calling this stuff. And I think some people fail. I think we got to.
Take your time. Take your time.
We wonder why stuff happened. That's why you can't follow up everybody that we think that look good on TV, that people are doing. If the Holy Ghost didn't tell you to do it, mind your business and don't do all this stuff that everybody, because you don't know what type of stuff everybody's dealing with. We'll save that for another day. That's okay. That's another show. We got you on that one. Remember, let's go back, as we are rebuilding this brokenness.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to remember to speak life into the thing that we're rebuilding.
Yes, ma'am.
Because remember what we just said, we can't control how it looks. And even as you're rebuilding your marriage, your relationship with your children, your finances, your home life, whatever it is that you're trying to rebuild, we may have a part of the vision, but we don't have it in its totality. We may have the first part, we may have part of the middle, we may see a little bit of the end, but we don't have the fullness of the journey. So there's some parts that you're not going to see, and I know that that's intentional, because if you did see it, you probably quit, because there's still parts of it that are not going to always be smooth and always be perfect, because you still have to make sure your faith
Hmm.
is tested, tried, and authenticated in the process to make sure you got it as you're rebuilding it, to make sure it's sustainable and the foundation is sound. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Elisa, because I know you got something to say. I know you got a story.
Oh,
I know you got a
oh
story.
my God. How many stories do I have? Oh, there's a part for you to do. There's a part for God to do, and there's a part for others to do. If you are able to just focus on the part that is yours to do, you will have more than enough to take care of. God helped me to understand this as it related to healing every aspect of my life. One of the aspects of my life that I needed to heal was my finances. And I don't know if you were on that call one day. I had done this whole talk. This was a couple years ago on finances and how I was praying for God to heal my finances and to make sure that I was doing everything decently and in order because I knew the right things to say.
Right. We're taught the
We're
right
taught
things
the
to
right
say.
things to say and the posture to have, but a lot of times we forget about the things that we have done. See, we just want to
Mm-hmm.
start right here, right now, fresh, but not take into consideration what happened before. Honey, no sooner than I got off that live, the police like knocking on my door. It was a process server. Girl, I hollered. My God,
Want it,
today.
test it. Yeah.
And for a
Mm-hmm.
minute, I got heated because I was like, God, I just did a whole live on talking about getting things right in your finances. And God said that means that heaven heard you.
Woo!
God
Girl.
said you can't have a powerful presence that's going to push you into an abundant future until you take care of your delinquencies from the past.
My
I
God.
said, okay. I flipped through that stuff.
Woo.
I said, all right. When you surrender and how does Dr. Vicky say, agree with God quickly?
Quickly.
Quickly. And you admit to the error of your ways, God's going to smooth that thing out real good.
So let's help a couple people out. So why is it that people seem to think that they don't have to deal with the delinquencies? They don't have to deal with the consequences. They think that, okay, I decided to wake up on the right side of the
And
bed
all
today.
is
Now
right with the world.
they've been waking up on the wrong side of the bed for the last 99 days, but today I'm gonna wake up on the right side of the bed. I got all these casualties for the last 99 days. But they think because I wake up on the right side of the bed that there are not going to be any and we can just walk away from that. And because the word does say, you shall reap what you sow. And I had to learn this. I did. I had to learn this as I was understanding, shifting my life, and the Lord making me a new creature. I was in that transition phase where all the hard stuff was coming while I was doing all good stuff.
Right. Right.
And I was like, God,
What
why
am
am
I
I
doing
still,
wrong? How
what
am
am I doing wrong? Like he said, you're reaping the seeds of the former years.
And that's why I continually tell people Don't quit another thing. Because, see, when you enter into this work, this is the work that throws people off. Because, see, church has done so many people a disservice because it doesn't give people the constitution that they need to withstand the storms. It's like, speak to this mountain and it'll move, and do this and that. That's all hyperbole. People are not taught the intricacies of heaven. What you have to understand is that God does everything decently and in order. And because God does everything decently and in order, you have to be sober in your understanding that heaven needs to right all of your wrongs.
Mm.
I don't care how long ago the sin was committed. I don't care how far you pushed it back into your mind. When you ask heaven to position you in a certain way, everything needs to be addressed.
Everything.
Everything needs to be addressed.
Even the stuff we try to hide and we think that don't nobody know, God knows that stuff is going to be
It's going to
addressed.
come. And then, no, okay, and then you have to see, I get this all the time. People are like, well, how do you hear this from God? How do you know? How do you, honey, it's available to everyone. The question is to you, how willing are you to be pruned? See, some people just want the surface scraping. Some people just want, see, there are realms, like we were talking about, there are realms to heaven. And just
Mm-hmm.
because you knock on the door, and just because you ask God to take you higher, honey, there are levels to this.
Mm-hmm.
God, heaven is not just going to open the doors because you asked. Because when you enter into those higher realms, you become responsible for the information that you receive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to handle those things with care. You have to handle those things with great. See, this is how I can tell when ministers and pastors have stopped evolving,
Come on now.
because they lose the humility. When you
Oh.
become arrogant, when you become haughty, when you become the person who looks down their noses at other people, and you are judging people's relationships with God, that means that you have stopped accelerating. Because the higher that you go, the more compassion you gain.
Mm-hmm.
The higher and the
Mm-hmm.
deeper that you go, the greater the love. And when people see, the world wants you to, the world allows people to get to a place where people become idols, and
Oh.
they stop right there. When people get full of themselves and they start drinking their own Kool-Aid, and people start to worship them and people start to idolize them, they have made themselves equivalent to what and who they perceive God to be. But God is so much greater than that.
He is.
So much greater than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I shy away, and there's so much brokenness in power. Like, people that purport themselves to be powerful are some of the most broken people you ever want to meet.
They are.
Very
They
broken,
are.
very damaged.
Because they use their power as a replacement
Yes.
or a filler for the void that's within them.
Mhm.
And when you're in this rebuilding process, and you have been one of my spiritual mentors, her name is Dr. Bobby Alexander. She said you got to be gutted out.
Oh my
She said you
God.
got to get your she said you got to get your gut scrubbed
Like
out.
a
That's what
fish.
she talked
Like a
about.
fish.
She said you got to get it scrubbed all the way
Yep.
out. She said because you can't, especially in ministry and in leadership, period. And we always talk about you can't take people any further than you have already been. But until you get yourself gutted all the way out, you can't help nobody. And you will always find yourself stumbling in those places until you have really taken all of that brokenness before God and allowed Him to actually do all the surgery on those places that He needs to fix. And see, because we'll patch ourselves up real good and make it look like we fixed up. And then He has to go back and say, no, baby, that didn't heal right. Let me break it again and fix it because you crooked, you bent, you're not straight, you walking look, you fixed, you walking ain't right, you ain't, and He has to break us again. And we thinking we looking cute, and people be like, "Oh, girl, you look all right," but you ain't together.
Mm.
And God will gather us all the way up and get us straight. But we got to spend some time with God and take all that ugly stuff to Him. Because the thing about it is, when He asks for it, but when we get to the point we prideful and say, "No, God, I'm good," He like, okay. It comes a time when He's gonna have to take your brokenness and fix you in public where He tried to fix you in private.
Oh. And that's how I know when by the time things get to the natural, by the time things get to the world, I know that you have not listened to God. Because heaven is so gentle. Heaven is so
Mhm.
loving. Heaven wants you to heal in the secret places. Heaven wants to help you to get through those things in private so God can show the world the best of you. But if you are so rebellious and if you are so arrogant, you leave heaven no choice. You leave
Mhm.
heaven no choice because heaven loves each and every one of us so much that the lesson will be learned willingly or unwillingly. And it behooves you greatly to be a willing participant.
Definitely. You have to be willing participant because you're gonna go kicking and screaming if you don't.
Mhm.
And see, the other part of it is that we have to remember is God's word will never return into Him void. So whatever word He has spoken over your life has to come to pass.
And it
So
may
if
be on
He
your
means for you,
you seen people do those deathbed confessions and people at the very end and God just breaks them down. I'm like, God, please don't let that be me. Like I wanna live my entire life fully and not get to the end and be like, I could have had this the whole time. All I had to do was have this conversation. All I had to do was forget. All I had to do, honey. Mm-mm. I've seen it.
be free,
Be free. Be free, little birdie. Be free.
be free, be free, be free. So as we rebuilding and we're having these conversations, we have to continue to speak life and understand that even as we're rebuilding those places that we did not want to revisit, that's a part of the process of rebuilding to make sure that the foundation is sure, to make sure the foundation is rebuilt the right way. We're going to have to go through it. But at this point, we should be healed enough that we can walk through the journey without having to run away from it. Yeah, it's not gonna feel comfortable. We might not like it, and it's gonna sting a little bit, but we're gonna have to still go through the process because if we don't go through it, we're not gonna make it all the way to the other side of the place to where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part of how we have to rebuild. And it improves the communication. It allows you to walk in a place of truth. It forces you to be in that true place of forgiveness, not that fake forgiveness. Y'all know. I forgive you, but then you gonna bring when the conversation get real heated and you bring it back up again, you ain't forgave nobody.
Honey, the next challenge is forgiveness. We're going through that one again. I
Now I'm tell you
huh?
that forgiveness, y'all can everybody has gone through that forgiveness. Every time it come around, we go through it because it's layers to
There is.
forgiveness.
I see. I always laugh like new people. New people. I've heard this so many times. Every time I say I'm doing the forgiveness, oh no, I don't need that one. I'm good. I said, well, come on, give it a try and then see. Honey, about day 15, I thought I was good, but you will be doing forgiveness work until the day you leave this planet. Just get
All
used to
the
it.
time.
Get used to it. The key to heal, see, that's the thing about the brokenness. When you first surrender and you admit that you need the help and you want to heal those places, that's
You have to admit what? Admit what?
admit that you need the help.
Okay, I just want to make sure they heard that part. Go ahead.
And once you identify that, like that first phase, that first wave, I don't know what skeletons everybody has in their closet, but that first, this is why a lot of people don't get through that first phase of the process because they have so much stuff. And the
Mhm.
enemy is the great deceiver. The enemy knows your sins better than you do. So heaven is fighting for you. Your angels are fighting for you. And the enemy is also fighting for you because you've got to realize that just like here on earth, there is a fear of unemployment in the spirit realm. The enemy has been attached to you for 25, 30 years. And the enemy is not going to let you go willingly and
Mm-mm.
easily. And so
Mm-mm.
that is why the fight in the at the beginning of the process is so difficult, because if the enemy can get you to fizzle out before you get the breakthrough, then that is going to compound the frustration. That's going to compound the brokenness because the enemy is now going to use this failure against you too.
Mm, 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 mm.
So it is literally a fight for your life.
It is.
When you are rebuilding the brokenness, it is a fight for your life. Literally.
Mhm.
It affects your dreams. Y'all, when I, honey, oh my God.
Come
Woo!
on, come on.
When I started, see, this is the thing. When I committed to this work seriously, and you seriously surrender all, the enemy is going to infiltrate your dreams. The enemy is going to saturate that was the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life, because I was giving up my adulterous life. I was giving up that lust. I was giving up all of those physical dynamics. And
Oh my
I
God.
did, this is
Oh,
this is probably a whole nother
woo.
conversation, but my book is so open, my closets are clear. But that sexual spirit, that all of
Come
those
on.
things, that enemy, honey, I did not know what an incubus spirit was.
Girl, let me tell
I,
you something. That thing is treacherous.
literally, and it was during that fight for my freedom that sucker You can't tell. See, when you experience God for yourself, when you experience the spirit realm for yourself, there is no priest, there is no rabbi, there is no deacon, there is no mother of the church, there is no there is no one
Mm-mm,
who can tell me
mm-mm,
that that spirit realm is not
mm.
real.
When I say get you up out your bed, out your sleep fighting, fighting. If I could just get my leg from up under the covers, I'm gonna fight. When I say fighting,
It is it's a very it's life changing. It's a
it is.
life changing experience when you truly have a spiritual encounter.
I also know when those attacks come, I know I've hit something at another level in the spirit
Mhm.
realm.
Mhm. Mhm. My dreams. I with Cynthia, she does a dream interpretation, but
Oh yeah,
when I was
yeah.
doing my dreams, so at one point in my dreams when I was going through breaking through,
Mm-hmm.
when I started to hit the breakthrough, when God showed me this one, I was in all of my dreams, I was walking around with everybody else on the earth. And then when I got to this level, that when the moment that I ended the affair, because see, in the all of my dreams prior to that, every dream that I had, there was a wolf in the corner. It could be
Wow.
I'm out in the park, there's a wolf over there. I'm in my kitchen, there's a wolf over there. Everywhere I looked, there was a wolf off in the distance. And the closer that I got, like every day, God was like, you got to release this, you got to release this. And every night, you pay attention to those recurring dreams. When
Yes.
heaven allows the recurring dreams to keep coming night after night after night, you are a fool not to pay attention to those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that dream, because I was relieved, because I kept praying and asking God, help me to rebuild my marriage, help me to rebuild my family. And God was like, in order to rebuild, you got to release some things. And until you release this affair, until you speak it, until you admit your sin to your husband. See, a lot of times we want to just do it in the sea. See, you got to do it the way heaven tells you to do it. Sometimes heaven will require you to go face to face with that person. Sometimes heaven will allow you to do it in the secret places. Sometimes heaven will allow you to do it in a very subtle way, but you have to follow heaven's rules. You can't do it the way that you want to do it. Because, see, I wanted to just admit my sins to the Father and keep it moving. God said, no, you got to go admit this one to your husband.
Now I want you to pause right there.
Girl, I don't know why I think you're so funny.
No, I'm serious because that's for real. Because people take that scripture out of context because there's scripture that talks about confessing your sins one to another.
Mm-hmm.
That God is just to forgive. And many people think that okay, I don't have to confess to everybody. As long as I confess to God, God, I don't have to talk to nobody else. No, there are some
Yeah,
things God requires you to go back to the
right,
individual that you have
right.
wronged,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be
And you
obedient.
have to. And the moment that I made that confession, I was fearful of for my life. I thought I was going to leave this earth. But I was free in the spirit realm, and my dreams changed. And the dreams, I started hovering just above the ground. And as I began to release more and more and more, and things started to be broken, all of the broken areas started to assemble, and God started to remember me. I started to be refitted in the true life that God had promised. I started to rise higher.
Because of that one soul tie was anchoring you.
Yes. And the
Mhm.
more freedom I got, the more I was able to maneuver. And then God was like, when I got to the place, because at one point I was flying above people, but I was still beneath the tree. So I had to dodge like power lines and stuff like that. And then when I got above the trees and above the buildings, God was like, now you're free.
Wow.
Never had those dreams again.
Mm, mm, mm,
And then
mm.
the dreams changed.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are rebuilding, this is why I consistently teach it's spirit first, mind second, and body third. Don't let the world fool you. The order
Mm.
matters.
It does. And even in the coaching that I do, it still includes spirit, mind, and
Yeah.
body, even in understand emotional intelligence, because you have to have spirit, mind, and body in the realm of self-awareness
Yeah.
in that space first, and then getting into your other relationships. Because if you don't understand you first,
Honey,
and you don't have a degree of full self-awareness, you can't relate to the next person in a place of truth, in a place of agreement, and in a place of honesty, and in the truth of who you are, to even communicate what you need, what you want, what you like, and what you don't like. Because you have to be healed and whole. And even as you're going through your journey and you're going through your process, to be able to even articulate what it is that matters to you, and to even discern what other people are, even as you're rebuilding in a relationship.
honey, God stripped everybody away from me. Everybody. And see, that's the thing. A lot of people are not willing to be stripped. It's a very, God puts you almost in a place of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And God took everything. It was literally for years, me and God. And God's like, this is about all you can handle right now. So that when I do allow you to, as the world says, reintroduce yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you gonna know exactly who you are. And see, I'm able, when God takes you through that clearing process, I'm able to test the spirit by the spirit real quick. And
Mm-hmm.
things don't bother me. Nothing in the world, nothing in this world, people's attitudes, people's report, like everything, like for example, this right now, what we're going through with Mike and everything, this is probably one of the heaviest things we've been through in years. Honey, we sitting there, I ain't moved by that. I ain't moved by that. Because see, I know who I am. Mike knows who he is. And we know the promises that God has made us because we were willing to go through the process. So you get a little foggy on the promise if you haven't done
Come
the
on.
work.
Come on.
I think God gonna heal. I think God's gonna do this. I think God, well, I don't know. Not my will, but your will be done, Lord. If you want it to happen, it'll happen. God, you said. You said, I remember I wrote it down. That's why I journal. My journal is my documentation that I'm not crazy.
My
I
God.
know what God told me.
Mm-hmm.
I know what God told me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always tell how close you are to heaven based on the level of difficulty that God allows to cross your path. Because God cannot entrust just anybody
Mm-mm.
with the assignment.
He can't.
Because heaven has to know that you are equipped to see it through to the end. That conference taught me that.
Oh, girl.
I was in too deep. to turn around. I was in too deep because see, heaven wants you in that sweet spot where you in too deep to go back and you in too deep not to see what the end is going to be. So what you going to do? And heaven will not let you know that things are falling apart until you in too deep. Because it's gonna flow and flow and flow. Oh, this is good. This is good. This is good. God's like, right here. Let's pause right here. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
God say, what you gonna do now?
Gotta keep
I
moving.
love it when people come to me and they in too deep.
Mm-mm.
That's why I tell people, I'm not in this work to be your friend. I'm not in this work to be your friend. I'm in this work to make sure that you don't give up. I'm in this work to make sure that you see what the end is going to be. Heaven's assignment is bigger than your emotions. Heaven's assignment is bigger than anything that you can think or imagine. And that's why it behooves you greatly to allow heaven to break you. You want heaven to break you before the world breaks you.
Definitely.
Because heaven breaks you with such compassion and love and a, with
Mercy.
mercy and with a real reason for the breaking. The world just breaks you just for the hell of it because it can, and that's how the world works.
Leaves you there to
It
die.
leaves you
Yeah, it
there.
has. Yeah, it leaves you
And
there.
like
Yeah.
next,
Yeah. They just and walk right over you and don't even care.
mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
It's one of those things where when we get to that place where you want the best, you're willing. It's a people are always talking about getting in the grind, putting in the
You know
work.
my thoughts on all of this, so that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah. And the hustle. But the real hustle and the real grit is when you have to walk out that thing that you believe when you can't see the end. When you say you in too deep, you can't quite see the end, but you can't go backwards either. When you in that middle part, like the Egyptians, they Pharaoh was on their tail, and then the Red Sea was in front of them. It's like, which
Where
way
do
do
we
we
go?
go? I don't know what to do. So it's like there comes a time where you have to, when I say pull it from way deep down on the inside, and just it takes all of your faith, the Holy Ghost, wisdom, whatever you think you might have, and then some, and even if you got to borrow some from somebody else to just get to the next moment. Sometimes you can't even get to the next full day.
No, it's one
I just need
literally
enough
one step
one
at a time.
moment, one literal step at a time. I remember what times was so bad. Y'all gonna think I'm crazy. When I was so bad, I texted Jesus. I said, God, I got to find you. Someone, can I send you a text? Can you come get me like now? Because I don't think I'm gonna make it in the next 30 seconds. I'm about to lose
I
my
tried to Google. I Googled
mind.
what what is the meaning of my life. I Googled like what is
I
the
mean,
meaning of my life.
until you have been in that place when I say you feel like the bottom of your life has fallen completely out, and you know that you've got to keep going no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. No, well, when the bottom fell out a few times for me, but the when the bottom fell out and my butt ended up in the psych ward, and God still had me doing work. I was like, God, is there no bottom for you? God's like, look, this is how powerful the brokenness broke me down so much that I did a whole 7-day stint in a psych ward because that brokenness, the the healing will break you before the breakthrough.
Yes.
And it broke me. The healing is so the healing the broken and see this I don't even have the words for this. The breaking, see, when you give heaven permission,
Ooh, honey.
see, that's the thing. People don't realize God does everything decently and in order. And when you invite heaven in, I learned this. When you invite heaven in and you give heaven permission and you say, come into my heart, come into my spirit, come into me, and anything that is not of you, fix it.
Mm.
See, when you invite heaven in, when it gets so tough, God was like, see, you don't understand this. See, when you invite heaven in, God doesn't know how to do a job halfway. See, we are so used to doing things, and then when we get tired, we give up. Heaven doesn't give up. Heaven doesn't give in. When you give heaven an assignment, heaven is going to complete that assignment with or without you. And God told me, if you don't want us to do the work in your marriage, if you don't want us to do the work in your finances, if you don't want us to do the work on your mind, then the same way that you invited us in, you invite us to leave. I'm like, who
My
gonna do
Lord.
that? How
No.
you gonna say,
No.
how I couldn't even formulate my lips to say, dear Lord,
Mm,
thanks,
mm.
but no thanks. God say, see, you don't understand. When heaven agrees to an assignment, that thing's gonna be done. No matter where you are, if you in your bedroom or if you in a psych ward, the work continues.
But then you really realize how much of your life was on a kickstand because
A kickstand, girl, you had a kickstand. I was up on cinder blocks. Shoot.
because you just gonna come in and fix the stuff that you think you see. And honey, he come in tearing up all kind of stuff. And you
Wrecking ball. Let me tell you. Wait, it's in my journals back there. I
whew,
kept I kept praying. This was my prayer, dear Lord, restore my marriage. Dear Lord. And you can tell when your prayers are like hitting the ceiling, like they ain't going nowhere. I kept praying,
boom,
dear
like on
Lord.
top of your head.
Right. Dear Lord, restore my. I kept praying that, praying that, praying. I was like, God, why don't you restore my marriage? God's like, restoring what? When you restore something, you're using the foundation and the bones and everything that are still there, and you're
Yes.
restoring it to its original. God was
Mm-mm.
like,
He said, I'm
this
this up
this foundation is faulty. This is wrecking ball. We tearing this whole foundation
all the way
all
down.
the way down. I was like, my God.
Massive overhaul. Yes, ma'am.
See, people be
Been
praying
there.
for restoration and mm-mm, mm-mm. See, and that's when I learned. I learned to pray before I pray.
Yes.
I don't even come out the gate praying myself. I ask God, God, what should I be praying for in this situation? Because I ain't gonna waste my time putting my words, my lips on things that aren't even in God's wheelhouse. Like God's like, I ain't gonna even do that for him. So I ain't gonna even do that for you. Don't even ask for that.
I'm so glad the Holy Ghost interprets some of the stuff that we don't know. Because I know he would be like, she don't know what she want. Let me tell you what she really need. She
Mm-mm.
don't know what she want.
Honey, at one point I was praying for a new husband. I ain't know what husband it was. I said, I just want a new husband. God said, behold, I do a new thing. I been daggone if Mr. Johnson wasn't rebuilt. And literally this last situation, literally, they told us in the hospital, He's gonna be like a brand new baby. I said, well, I bet Joe Brown. I got a
My
I got a whole
Lord.
new husband, spirit, mind, and body. I was like, oh,
Dear God.
ain't that something? Won't God do it?
The way he wants to do it. The way he wants to do it.
And the fact, Erica, the fact that I can even sit here and laugh at this stuff. I mean, Mike and I have laughed more over this whole life shift scenario than anything because God, when God is in it, there's joy. Even in the brokenness, God will give
Come
you
on now.
joy. Even in the most, how can I put it? Inconvenient situations. If God is in it,
Mm,
you have nothing to fear.
you don't.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah,
You don't.
Mike is, honey, let me tell y'all something. This brokenness thing, when God is in something,
I gotta put the question up there for the viewers to see so they can understand why you answering the question.
let me tell y'all something. They told us in the hospital because because of this work, because of the healing of the broken places and all of that, you can speak things more powerfully. Like God, I know
Yeah.
what they said, but I know what you said. I know what they said, but I know what you said. So they said Mr.
Correct.
Johnson was going to be in the hospital for 30 days. Mr. Johnson was home on day 12.
My God.
Day 12, day 11, I hadn't even got to the hospital. Day 10 or 11, I hadn't got to the hospital yet. And I come down the hall and the nurse is like, he's going to be going home soon. I'm like, huh? Mike said he went out to ask for like some water or something, like you could walk around the unit. And the nurse that had come on duty said, well, what patient are you visiting? He said, I am the patient. She said, okay, this cannot be. They sent him home on day 12. We go back to the hospital on day 14 to do the checkup. His platelets had quadrupled. Like everything was replicating so fast. Like the nurse came out like, we hadn't even gone back there yet. She was like, I got to tell you this. I got to come out here and tell you this. She said, I just wanted to see you. She said, this is good. I said, it's good. She said, this is very good. I said, okay. When you heal that brokenness, you give heaven an opportunity to heal you faster. So
Ooh, God,
back to the
I'm about to run to the house.
honey. So back to the trash question. He's supposed to be under care for like 100 days. Mr. Johnson is doing so good. Yes, he's taking the trash out. Today, I'm walking around like tick, tick, tick. I said, you know what that is? He said, no, what's that? I'm like, I'm counting down to the last day that I prepare all your meals and your snacks and your. Because when you are available to God, you give heaven the opportunity to do the work outside of time.
Oh, come on.
God is the creator of time, but God is not bound by time. The process will take time, but God can circumvent that time
Because he's the redeemer of all
all
time.
time. And this whole process throughout, God said, see, this is the thing where people miss it. Because we are here on earth, we've got to fill out the forms. We've got to
Mhm.
pay the taxes. You got to do all of the things. But when heaven is involved, heaven can speed that process up.
Yes, he can.
You still gonna have to do it, but the way in which it's done, that is all up to heaven.
Mm.
Did you fill out the form? Yep, I filled it out. Did you do this? Yep, I did that. But it took me 6 months. It took me 6 minutes. All right, we both filled out the form.
I love it. And that's the
It's
truth.
the truth.
All about being obedient.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
All about being obedient. We are all doing the same thing. But the difference is I have the backup of heaven.
Thank you.
We have the backup of heaven.
I filled out the
You
form. You
and I.
filled out the form too. But who did you submit your form to?
Okay. And where did you get your instructions from?
Thank you. That's the thing. The process is the process. It's going to happen. But where you are in the process, that's up to God. Oh, I love this stuff. Oh my God. I don't even know if I apologize if I got off topic, but yeah, that's
Look, we were where we were supposed to be. I love it too. We were where we were supposed to be. We were talking about rebuilding the brokenness and how God does it in the way that He does it, because we try to rebuild it one way, God does it another way.
Mm-mm. And when you get
And
into
we talked about
alignment,
how He does it when we aligned in the spirit. He does it completely different. And He does it and He speeds up the process and He gives provision along the way.
my God.
It's all about us being lined up with it. But you all, this is our time. Actually, we're over
We
time,
sure
but
are.
this is our time. Yeah, girl, but it was
It
good though.
was
It's
good.
always good. So we hope you all, it was as good for you as it was for us. As always, we love you all so much. We will be back again next week and we will continue to have this conversation and we're going to have additional guests. So y'all get ready. And we still have coming up. I don't quite have the date yet, but we still putting it together. Love then, love now. That's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event. We're going to make sure we have it. Do me a favor. Please make sure you like, please share, please subscribe, but also invite 5 people. Make sure you invite 5 people and join us next week. We love you all. Thank you so much, Alicia. I love you so much. You all take care and join us next week.